Right, so ladies and gentlemen, session 10 is our next stop. Session 10 deals with the theories of organization-environment relations. This session is important because there have been 2 periods of intense development in the understanding of organization-environment relations. The first occurred during the late 1950s and the early 60s, when the concept of environment was first developed. And then, of course, that included the extension of the systems theory and so on. And then the second period, which began in the 1970s and continued even up to today. So under this period, the environment is presumed to be influential and interest on the ways in which this influence can be explained in practice. So that's what we are going to look at. So the theory will relate to the first period, and then we also will look at another theories, a group of theories that relate to the second period. Especially the first period, we'll look at the contingency theory that underpins the environment and the mechanistic systems, and then we'll look at the dependency, resource dependency theory, which is explored under the second period. So this will be the broad guidelines, a broad schema, a general explanation of the theories of organization, blah blah. Organization theories, general explanation of the theories of the organization-environment relations. Then we'll look at the dependency theory. Then we'll look at the resource dependency theory. So general explanations of the theories of organization-environment relations. We see the organization sometimes faces uncertainties that it may not always be aware of what really the environment demands. So the existence of the environment creates several dependencies. And we are saying that the uncertainties and the dependencies usually shape the organizational structure and invariably shape its actions. So the first period was devoted to conceptualizing the environment and demonstrate the importance of an environment. And then the second period to the development that started in the 1960s and continued today, and so on. So we are saying that the environment is very, very important. We will examine the resource dependency theory, and then of course we will look at what we call the contingency theory as well. So the contingency theory. So the organization differs considerably depending on whether they operate in a stable or rapidly changing environment. So in stable environment, organizations will normally specialize in routine activities with well-defined lines of authority and responsibility. Now, if you want to use the metaphor of a machine, these organizations are called mechanistic organizations. Examples are university libraries, post offices, telephone companies, and so on. Machines usually are made up of parts which interact to perform a function. So when we talk of mechanistic organizations, they have different parts which perform specific jobs. And they are usually engineered into high-performing systems, invariably. And who does that? Management does that. So let's look at mechanistic theories. So in a rapidly changing environment, however, organizations require flexibility, and employees are encouraged to apply their skills as needed and must be prepared to fit into the changing work patterns. Now, modern organization theories describe these organizations as organic, and we have hospital emergency rooms, research laboratories. So know that most administrative work in the universities is done mechanistically, but the research is more organic like we do. So these organizations are like living things, and therefore adapt flexibility to changing the environment. So what are the features of organic organization? They are less specialized, less formalized, and they have lateral communications. The main challenge in performing network analysis, the difficulty of determining a reasonable boundary of the organization. So decision as to which actors you include and exclude will be difficult. For most managers, the solution is to place the organization at the center and so on. So general comments on contingency theory. Now within the organization, there are both mechanistic and organic theory. The distinction, however, is that it's important in order to characterize the general tendencies in different styles of organization. It is wrong to conclude that one organization is superior to another. One may be mechanic, one may be organic. So what we are saying is that the workings of an organization may be dependent or is contingent on the nature of the organization. That's what we're talking about. So in a stable environment, the mechanistic form is advantageous. So the use of standard procedures generate efficiency, The organization can minimize costs and maximize profitability. On the rapidly changing environment, the use of mechanistic model is preferable, because in type of, in a disaster situations, you need to adapt quickly. So the logic of profitability and routinization breaks down and so on. The flexibility that is associated with organic organization is suitable for usually rapidly changing organization. All we are saying is that if the nature of the organization or the strategy that you adopt is actually dependent or contingent upon the type of organizations that you operate within, then the last bit will be, the next one will be the resource dependency, not the last bit, the next. Now, this theory was fully developed by Jeffrey and Pfeffer, and or Jeffrey Pfeffer and Salansek. Their main interest is that there is an assumption that organizations are controlled by the environment. The theory also contends that managers can learn to navigate the high seas of environmental domination. And the basic argument of this is that the interorganizational relation within the network can help managers to understand the power dependency relationship that exists. So when managers are equipped with this knowledge, they can anticipate the likely sources of influence. And that is something that you need to appreciate as we go through this particular course. Now, so organizations are vulnerable to the environment invariably, and usually that is due to, it's not their fault, it's due to their following, or due to the following: raw materials. They will need raw materials. Organizations will need labor. Organizations will need equipment. Organizations will need knowledgeable people and so on. Outlets for their product, market. Organizations will have to meet the standard usually set by regulatory agencies, whether it's Food and Drugs Board or Ghana Standard Authority, SPURC, among others. So the dependence on these things give the organization its power. So take note. Organization uses this power to make demands on. The environment usually uses this power to make demands on the organizations for such things as competitive prices. So how much you are going to sell your bottle of water is dependent on how much others are selling that bottle of water, the same quantity. So that will tell you the variation between maybe Vital and other products on the market, and so on. So we're saying that it's also for desirable products and services. The environment would demand efficient organizational structure. The environment may also demand what we call efficient organizational structure and processes. So the dependence the organization has is not one single unidirectional, unidifferentiated dependence. It's a complex set of dependencies that you need to appreciate, and so on. So resource dependency theory starts by identifying organizational needed resources and then tracing them to their sources. So the use of the open system analysis normally will help you to appreciate or identify the resources that you need as an organization. And the systems helps you want to identify the source of inputs and so on. And then you can use the network model to identify where the resources are located. Not difficult at all. Now, so focus attention on those environmental actors, who can really affect the relationship. And in practice, what we are saying that it's difficult to consider every source of dependence. And the solution is that you look at the resources according to their, what we call their criticality and scarcity. So two things should shape your search, or should motivate your search. How critical are the resources and how scarce are the resources? So managing dependencies will require the establishment of countervailing power with respect to particular environmental elements on which the organization's dependency rests. So you must thoroughly understand the network with regard to the criticality and scarcity and seek ways to avoid a dependence. That's what you need to do. And then, of course, one area of managing dependency is that you need to look at the supply of raw materials. And if possible, establish multiple sources of supply. Or where it is necessary, you contract out. Then you must also look at merger strategies. Can you merge, UT Bank, and others merging, or the Trust Bank becoming part of EcoBank? So you look at that. Development of personal relationships with members of other firms. That will help you leverage, increase the network. And establishment formal ties, taking membership of their boards. That can, but this one you need to be careful so it does not lead to what we call a conflict of interest. And then managing regulatory agencies, sending lobbies and so on. Whether this is effective in Ghana is something that we have to figure out. Labor and knowledge dependencies are managed with recruitment strategies. You may put in place strategies that will recruit the best skills, the best qualified people from the market. Formation of trade associations will also help you become competitive and deal with regulators. Now, what we are saying is that if all the above fails, what you need to do is that then change your dependency. What do you need to do? Change your business. You exhibit a line of business. But it is important to appreciate that when you have moved, change your line of business, all that you have done is that you have changed your dependencies. You have not changed the fact that you are going to depend on others will never change at all. So the conclusion we draw is that these strategies merely alter the dependence picture. They do not eliminate the need to manage resource dependence. Managing resource dependence requires careful definition and monitoring of the environment. It also calls for imagination with respect to balancing the power of others by developing the power of your own organization. When you develop the power base of your own organization, it helps you to manage the dependency within the system effectively. This is what you need to be interested in. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope that you are going to concentrate or follow the subsequent sessions with the same zeal and enthusiasm. Thank you.